This next section is called the Advanced Warning section. It's a bit like the old sub-intel. And it's something that has to be said and needs to be noted of what they're planning and what they're up to and what are the potential outcomes. Now, in a report this week, it is estimated that 11 to 13 million renter households are at risk of eviction, including to a report by Stout, an investment bank and global advisory firm. And it predicts that there could be as many as 6.4 million potential eviction filings on January the 1st, 2021, if the CDC moratorium is lifted. Now, since the order does not cancel or freeze rent, all of the tenants' back rent will be due come January the 1st. How are they going to pay it? And without rent relief or an extension of the protection, many struggling renters will face eviction. And I have a feeling that the moratorium may be extended, but that will just put even more financial stress on the landlords. Now, from my perspective, the landlord stress is a deliberate ploy for the banks to take more homes away from people. Otherwise, they would have put funds in the debt relief for landlords. How can they expect landlords to absorb the cost and potentially lose their investments due to rogue government decisions and programs? Yeah. 500 billion today. That could have gone to the landlords who have lost thousands and thousands of dollars and are in danger of losing their homes and investments. No, let's give it to Trump so he can go and vaccinate us all. With his Black Sun group. At some point there will be no more moratoriums, and all of that back rent will be due, and most of the households will not be able to pay it and will be evicted anyway. Meanwhile, more Americans are losing their jobs with each passing day, and the new lockdowns that are being put in place all over the country right now will greatly accelerate that process. And no matter what happens politically, it appears that our national economic nightmare is only going to intensify in 2021, and that means we are likely to see even more civil unrest. That is coming. I'm not going to deny it. I call it as it is here. It is coming. Of course, most people already understand what is happening to our country, and that is why so many wealthy individuals are fleeing our core urban areas. Now, this report is underestimating it because we put out last month it was 440,000. But according to the New York Post, more than 300,000 New Yorkers have moved out of the city over the past 8 months, and city residents filed 295,103 change of address requests from March the 1st through October 31st, according to the data that the Post obtained from the US Postal Service under a Freedom of Information Act. Now, since the data details only when 11 or more forwarding requests were made to a particular county outside NYC, the number of moves is actually higher. Yes, it's over 500,000 now. And a single address change could represent an entire household, which means far more than the 300,000 New Yorkers fled the 5 boroughs. And it said this is already the craziest time in modern American history as we head into another deeply troubled year. Now, for a long time now, have been warning that the economic collapse, famine and civil unrest were coming. And now all three are in the headlines on a continual basis. Now, unfortunately for us, what we have experienced so far is just the beginning. And the global authorities are hoping for a reset, as promised by Mr. Schwab. But unless we stop it, it's not a reset, it's a great meltdown instead. And like the last song played, why are we the people tolerating this? The UN stepped in this week. They have a World Food Programme, and they received their usual backslapping award as the winner of a Nobel Peace Prize in 2020. And the head of that agency is warning of the potential for absolutely devastating famines around the globe in 2021. The COVID-19 lockdowns that were instituted all over the world this year created tremendous hardship, they said, in many wealthy countries, but in poorer countries the economic devastation has created alarming waves of hunger. Now, there was hope that things would get better when lockdowns were lifted. They were never going to lift them. It was just another illusion program. But now a new round of lockdowns is being imposed, and many experts are warning about what this could mean for those living in deep poverty. And David Beasley was absolutely thrilled when his agency was given the Nobel Peace Prize, because of all the attention has given him more opportunities to ask for more money. But like the UN channel then. Because without a massive influx of money, he says that they're going to see famines of biblical proportions in 2021. And the head of the World Food Programme says the UN agency with this prize has given a spotlight and megaphone to warn world leaders that next year is going to be worse than this year. And without billions of dollars, we are going to have famines of biblical proportions. Now, allied to that is widespread crop failures, along with the economic shutdowns brought on by COVID-19, has put a tremendous amount of stress on global food distribution systems. Except the widespread crop failure was nothing to do with COVID-19, as they started that with the weather wars, remember? And we highlighted it back in, March last year. And with food prices rapidly rising all over the planet, this is hurting the people at the bottom of the economic food chain the most, according to a report. And according to Beasley, many areas of the globe are potentially facing a major food crisis in the next 3 to 6 months. And according to a joint analysis by WFP and the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, 20 countries are likely to face potential spikes in acute food insecurity in the next 3 to 6 months and require urgent attention. Why didn't the trustee give them that for food instead of giving money to Trump for vaccines? And of those, Yemen, South Sudan, northeastern Nigeria and Burkina Faso have some areas that have reached critical hunger situations following years of conflict or other shocks, according to the UN agencies, and any further deterioration in coming months could lead to a risk of famine. And then the report says, here in the United States, the good news is that nobody is facing starvation at this point. Really? With 46 million on food stamps? I don't think so. But the bad news that we are in the midst of the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression of the 1930s, and some Americans are waiting in line for up to 12 hours for food handouts. 12 hours. And if you don't believe that, here is an excerpt from a news report about a food distribution event that has just happened in Texas. Thousands of families lined up to receive groceries at a Texas food bank this past weekend, some queuing for as long as 12 hours as the ongoing coronavirus pandemic continues to inflict hunger and economic hardships on the state. The food bank distribution event held by North Texas Food Bank in Dallas on Saturday saw 600,000 pounds of food given away, including 7,000 turkeys. And they said you have to be pretty desperate to be willing to wait in line for 12 hours. But then when you're hungry, or very hungry, and you're also very short on money, all of a sudden you'll be willing to do things that you wouldn't normally do, like take vaccines. That's the non-winning choices I warned of in Tuesday. And it said for those that wouldn't have a Thanksgiving dinner otherwise, this food distribution event was a real big deal. I see blessings coming to us because we all are struggling, and I appreciate North Texas for helping us out, resident Samantha Wood said whilst waiting in her vehicle. I haven't been working since last December and can't find a job. They cut my unemployment. It's a real big deal, according to Cynthia Coulter. There's your warnings. Scientists have made a major energy transfer breakthrough, according to this report this week, achieving unprecedented efficiency using a so-called anti-laser device to capture diffuse microwave energy, which has taken humanity one step closer to a wireless future. At present, wireless charging for devices like smartphones is possible, but within an extremely limited range and with varying degrees of efficiency. And long-range wireless power transfer on an industrial scale is still somewhat of a distant dream. However, a team of researchers at the University of Maryland have taken a huge step towards making it a reality by expanding upon existing techniques for ranged energy transfer. Now, the majority of current research in the area focuses on narrow beams of energy aimed at a target receptor, but energy loss and the efficiency issues are fairly large, which costs us all a lot extra on our electricity bill because of loss of energy through the wires and the sockets. Now, in contrast, the UMD team explored long-range power transmission without the need for focused beams of energy by employing a concept known as anti-laser. And the lasers are the result of a domino effect in which protons of a certain colour are shot out, triggering a chain reaction with other protons of the same colour, thus creating a beam of light we recognise as a laser beam. And on the other hand, an anti-laser reverses this process, so instead of boosting photons along a coherent path, it absorbs tuned photons. Now, it's led by the UMD Professor of Physics Stephen Anlage of the Quantum Materials Centre, and the team decided that they wanted to prove such a reverse laser was possible in a more challenging environment and more akin to the real world than the laboratory. And so they said they wanted some sort of random, arbitrary, complex environment, and we wanted to make perfect absorption happen under those really demanding circumstances. And that was the motivation for this, and that, according to him, they did it. So how did they do it? Well, the team is set up, or has been described, as a labyrinth of wires through which electromagnetic waves, or more specifically microwaves, could travel. And microwaves are a common candidate in energy transfer research, given their flexibility and the ease of manipulation. Interesting terminology there. The team then beamed microwaves of different frequencies, amplitudes and phases through the labyrinth to an absorber embedded in the center, and through repeated experiments using this labyrinth, the researchers fine-tuned the exact properties of input microwaves to maximize efficiency of energy transfer. And in the best case scenarios, the labyrinth absorbed 99.999% of the power they sent into it. The team next examined wireless power transfer capabilities of the system by repeating the experiments within a cavity. This time the two brass plates placed at either end several feet apart, with an asymmetric hole in the middle to randomize the microwaves, which were later beamed in. And sure enough, with the right tweaks, they achieved 99.996% efficiency. And he said, if we have an object which we want to deliver power to, we will first use our equipment to measure some properties of the system, according to Lei Shen, who's the author of the paper. And he said the efficacy of and safety of such a technique in a real-world environment would also need to be examined for years before regulatory approval would be granted. Now, on the one hand, this could sound really good. There's a lot of energy floating around, and this can be reduced and make it more efficient. It sounds great. But I always caution on technology and ponder on how it can be weaponized against us. And there's enough in that report to suggest it can be weaponized. But if I have it correctly, this cleans up microwaves and then turns it into energy. And if that's correct, that will be a good thing. And the next step would then to be negate any harmful effects of the 1 through 5G wireless industry. The alt media. I don't know what's alternative anymore, because there is none. But what we've seen in the past few weeks is the rise of 2014 again. Back come Pete Santilli, the original tank, in my opinion, in terms of character. Jimmy Church, Wilcock, Drake, Tanath, Kent Dunn, and another show running first Common Law, then militia and veterans enforcement stories. Then out went the news, intel, financial details, and in came the very childish presenting another group's members as a gloating exercise. And then they switched to the Wilcock-esque buy my whatever is for sale this week. It's all very 2014. And if we're not careful, coming soon, channeling of dear brothers from the Pleiades. Kenan returns from the dead. Cindy Courier declares herself Queen of America. Wynne and Gould proclaiming they still own everything. Heather Giraffe restarts OPPT. Teal Swan comes back to tell her listeners to commit suicide again. Tellinger espousing Ubuntu. And Cassidy and Bill Ryan get back together again and wheel out more corrupted interviewees. Guest appearances to come: Rick Light, Lady Dragon and Grammy J. Corey Good to reinvent himself as a diet and teeth expert. Leo Zagami back to tell you he's still in the Illuminati. And Shane the Ruler reinvents himself as a non-Draco Rothschild. Graham Hancock finally writes a book not about ayahuasca, and Fulford extolling the virtues of the Pichu Lodge. Dawn Hamhart and Danny McKenney show how they operated Randy Morgan's by strings. Bubba goes back to CV admin duties along with the alcoholic drug runner and his boatman. You have to laugh. But this stuff is not funny, actually. And all of them have become a massive distraction. And zero of them are providing any genuine solutions to fix the expanding problems list facing all people around the world, never mind America. Too content to copy in THI for their own ego and ends. And it's all very desperate stuff, I have to say. And at this point, the lack of focusing on what is real becomes more apparent by the day. All of it is distraction, dividing people into smaller groups of followers, all trying to reinvent the wheel with the same bullshit that failed before. One channel states they're going to be alternative to the mainstream media, then delivers the mainstream media shows to your app. Does that make any sense whatsoever? And how is that a solution to fixing our problems? Come and watch our banal TV mind control shows. Oh, and by the way, there's a fee. Another one. Think and act different is the only way forward. Repeating old system ideas, all of which failed, is the last refuge of the insane. And it's all about the comfort zone and familiarity aligned with a convenient distraction from not facing your fears. Our show on Tuesday released those inner fears for you all to face. It is shadow work on an interactive basis that this show is known for. Some won't face themselves, and so will easily jump into the past failed programs and show formats, and the folly of that will become most apparent over time. The alt media has descended into the pit of 2014 news, narrative and repeated agency-based shows and programs. His story always repeats unless you stop the cycle. As for THI, we will retain focus on what is real, continue to expose those who harm us, continue to focus on what we can do, and continue to focus on improving everyone's lives, and continue to point out distractions, and also expand your thinking, consciousness, and develop critical thinking minds. That's what we do. This next piece, before we go into the music break and then we go into some detailed exposés, there's a word of warning from one of our members. Our sweet children, last but not least, always have to pay dearly for their stupid bot parents, taking them to their stupid bot physicians to keep them current on their 45 vaccine scheduled before 6 years of age. So their child can attend a stupid bot school. Non-compliance not allowed. Must keep up the appearance that I'm being a good parent, doctor, while our perfectly healthy children become bot statistics. 54% of the children in America have chronic illnesses. There's 54% of the future workforce gone on the dole backs of future taxpayers. Basic income, anyone? Yes, the world of compliant bots. A bucket full of indoctrination a day keeps their minds enslaved. That was a good and to the point input, and I don't disagree with any of it, except to consider that that is the plan all along. There will be no future jobs. That is their plan. Most of it will be done by machines. Cops, military, government, banking will all go under their decentralization plan. Jobs will go to the compliant bot slaves, and the rest will survive on scraps like the District 9 movie. Underground insurgents hiding from RoboCops will become reality, but we can stop that now with non-compliance of their illegal rules and build a new future for us all. Please be a divergent.